Good morning and welcome to another episode of Good Bakes. Oh, this coffee? Oh, it's not for drinking. It's for our 3-tier chocolate cake that we're going to be making today. For this recipe, we'll need eggs, flour, sugar, salt, baking soda, baking powder, vanilla, cocoa powder, oil, crème fraîche, and coffee. The first thing we're going to do is prepare our pans. So we're going to be using 3 8-inch cake pans. And so we're just going to butter and flour those, and then we're going to turn our oven on 325 to get ready for our cakes. Okay, so we have buttered our pans, and our oven is on 325. We're going to make parchment circle rounds for the bottom of our pan. We're going to make a triangle. And then we're going to work around this folded edge triangle. Then we're going to keep folding around this point. Am I doing this the right way? Alright, and we're just going to measure based on our pan. So we should have a beautiful circle that we're going to push into the bottom of our pan, making sure to kind of seal the edges so that cake batter cannot get underneath the parchment paper. So we just want to make sure that's flat, no air bubbles, and since they're already buttered, it is kind of easier to get the parchment paper to stick. And then we are going to just butter the top of the parchment paper as well. Then we're just going to sprinkle some flour. Just work that around the pan. So this cake doesn't even have the chance to pretend that it might stick. So yeah, we're just going to repeat that process for all 3 pans. And then I like to save these little extra bits of parchment paper for when we ice our cake to put underneath our cake on the cake stand. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started baking. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is actually add our dry ingredients to our mixing bowl. So for this recipe, we're actually going to use cake flour. If you do not have cake flour, you can use all-purpose flour and substitute out 1 tablespoon of flour for 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And I have done that several times, so it still comes out absolutely great. And you can always just use all-purpose flour as well. You'll just have a coarser crumb in your cake, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to use 260 grams, or 2 cups. Add that to our bowl. Alright, so we're going to add our cake flour, our sugar, salt, baking soda, and baking powder to our bowl and mix those first. And so we need 450 grams of sugar. Add that in here. Then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of salt. A teaspoon and a half of both baking soda and baking powder. There's our teaspoon baking soda. Our teaspoon of baking powder. And then our half of each. Okay, so we're just going to mix this just so it's all combined. Okay, we're just going to whisk this a little bit. Now we're going to bloom our cocoa. And so we need a cup or 80 grams of unsweetened Dutch cocoa powder. 80 grams. Then we're just going to sift it so that it's not lumpy. Now we're going to add our coffee, which is 3/4 cups or 6 ounces, or 177 grams. And then we're just going to combine these. Oh, it already smells so good. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to add in our crème fraîche. And this is 8 ounces or a cup. Ooh, what are the grams? Let's see. 226 grams. Go ahead and add all of this in there. And this should be room temperature. Then we're also going to add in our vanilla. I'm just going to get her off of this spoon here. 1 tablespoon of vanilla. So I think that's not a tablespoon. So we're going to open our new vanilla. Yay! Alright, and we're just going to whisk that until smooth. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Now we're going to put our eggs together. This recipe uses so many eggs. There's 5 eggs and 2 egg yolks in the cake, and then in the buttercream there's another 4 egg yolks. So almost a dozen eggs. Alright, go ahead and separate out our 2 egg yolks. Get the hard part out of the way first. And these eggs should also be room temperature. If they're not room temperature, you can put them in a bowl of hot water to bring them up. Okay. And then we're going to add our 5 eggs. Okay, then we're going to also whisk these together. I'm going to use my baby whisk. We're going to go ahead and add our oil, and we're going to add half of the cocoa mixture. Okay. And it's 3/4 cups or 180 grams. Another half of that. Beautiful. Alright, I'm just going to slowly mix this to combine. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and scrape everything down. Make sure everything's in here, because it's definitely not. Okay, then we're just going to mix this for about 30 seconds until it's all one blob. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're going to scrape it down again. Okay. And then we're going to add our eggs. And the rest of our cocoa. Excuse me, mixer handle. We're going to start again on slow. Just going to scrape down, make sure everything's in here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and beat it again. So I think that's pretty good. So now we're going to separate it into our pans. And Claire helps us out with this recipe. She lets us know that each pan should be about 550 grams. These all weigh about the same amount. So I'm just going to tear that. So I like to fill it and then put it on the scale because it doesn't exactly balance on the scale. And we'll adjust based on what we get. I'm just gonna go to 500. Okay. Or 525. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, 525 was good. That's pretty good. We have racks arranged on the first and like third portion of the oven. We're going to put our pans in there and then we're going to rotate them halfway through baking so that they all bake the same. Okay, so this is just our 10-minute timer. So we're just going to rotate our cake pans. So we'll put these two on the top, but on opposite sides. This guy on the bottom. Turn them around. Look at this like cool pot holder thing. Okay, put this guy over here. Alright. Put this guy in the middle. Okay. So we're just going to do another 10 minutes. And then we'll check them again. So our timer just went off, so we're just going to see how these are doing. They look good. They look a little soft though. That's like almost clean. I feel like a minute at most. So I have this cool thing that you can use to pull your pans in and out. Thanks, mom-in-law. Let's just... I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one out. That one also looks good. And this one again. That's fine. Alright. So we're pulling all the cakes out. And then while those cool, we'll go ahead and start our frosting. For the buttercream, we'll need flour, sugar, salt, milk, vanilla, butter, cocoa powder, and eggs. Alright, so we're going to get started on our buttercream. Oh, I didn't put the chocolate in the picture. Whoops! Hold please. Pretend like this is in the things we need the chocolate. So we're going to do this first. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and break this up. We're making a pudding base. So we're going to just use 60% cacao chocolate. You can use anywhere from like 55 to 72. This is just what I saw at the store, so that's what we're going with. Okay, now we're going to heat our milk. We are going to make a milk and egg mixture. Milk, eggs, sugar, salt. And then we're going to combine that with our chocolate. Let the chocolate melt down. And then we're going to add our butter to that mixture. So the first thing we're going to do is heat up our milk and sugar. And then I'll come back for the cocoa powder and the eggs and all those. We're just going to go ahead and add our egg yolks. And we want this to actually become smooth. So it's going to start thick and then it'll smooth out as we keep stirring it. Just check on this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off the heat. Getting an arm workout today. And so it'd probably be good to switch to a whisk at this point. Okay, so we're just going to put in a little bit of our warm milk now. And then whisk this some more. And add a little bit more of our milk mixture. Okay, and then we're going to put this back on the heat. Turn it back on. I'm going to add this to here. Now we're just going to whisk this continuously until it thickens up. Okay, so it's starting to thicken up. Okay, and so we're going to go ahead and put this over the chocolate in a stand mixer. Okay. We're just going to let this sit for a few minutes while the chocolate melts. I'm just going to kind of make sure the chocolate is in there. And then once that kind of cools down to the touch, the bowl, then we will mix it. And then after the chocolate melts, we'll mix it and then we'll add in our butter. So I'm just going to go ahead and cube our butter. We're going to be using 1.25 cups of butter, or about 284 grams. Okay, so I see that the chocolate started to melt, so I'm just going to go ahead and mix this on low. And we're just going to mix this until the chocolate is completely melted and everything looks smooth and glossy. Smells fantastic. I'm just going to check to see if the chocolate's melted. Okay, I don't see any chocolate pieces. Okay, so we're just going to whip this for 10 to 15 minutes, basically until it's cold. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes now. I would say the bowl is definitely cold to the touch. We're going to add our butter, and we're just going to let it mix in before we add the next piece. I'll put in like a couple pieces, watch it disappear, and we'll just keep that up until we put all the butter in. Alright, so I'm just going to scrape this down. I know there's still some butter chunks in here. I can see them, so I just want to make sure those are mixed in there. I'm just going to scrape down the bowl again with our crazy looking spatula. And then we're going to add our vanilla. And then give it one more whip and then it should be good. 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to give it another good whip. Gonna run around again, make sure everything's pretty well incorporated. Looks great, nice and fluffy and smooth. All right, and that is our buttercream. So we're gonna leave that, and then we're gonna go ahead and just unmold our cakes. We don't need to like trim any edges or anything like that right now. We're just going to pull them out of the pans and let them cool completely. Looks like they came apart from the cake pan pretty well. But I'm just going to run a butter knife along just in case there's anything stuck. Alright. Pull off the parchment paper. We're going to let these cool completely before we do any sort of cuts or anything like that. Ice them. And so I'll usually let these sit until I'm pretty, like, right before I'm about to serve the cake, before I even bother icing it. So I'm going to let these sit for a couple hours, and then I will come back and we will ice the cake together. Alright. Hello! Okay, so we are going to go ahead and ice our cakes. So we can level them out to make them flat on the top. I do feel like they're pretty good, but I feel like it's just honestly good practice to level a cake. So you kind of want to just like set the knife on top and not exert any upward or downward pressure, you know, so I've heard. But I'll be honest, I'm not particularly good at leveling cakes. I should just like literally get a level and level it to see. Because I'm like, okay, I cut some off, but like, is it level? You know? And it's like, should I be level to like this part of the cake? Because that's like so much cake that you're cutting off. So honestly, a lot of times I don't really worry about it, especially when they look like this. But we're doing this for practice. I've seen like little things that like spin or something. That'd be cool. So, yeah. Now what we'll do is we'll just put a little bit of icing down. I'm just gonna give that a good stir. So we'll just put a little bit of icing down at the bottom. Kind of keep our cake nice and secure, and we'll do the cut side down. I don't know, maybe it matters. I'm going to do cut side down. Beautiful. And then our little scraps that we have, I'm just going to cut these into strips. It's just going to keep my cake plate clean. And it's a little easier to already have the cake on here when I do this. Otherwise, they just kind of move around a bunch. Okay, I think that's great. So, I'm going to put a healthy amount of icing, frosting, buttercream on there. And we're just going to get a good layer. If you don't have enough, just add more. Don't spread it too thin. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. It's better to add a little bit and then take it off, and then add more as you need it rather than trying to worry about taking it off. So I always start pretty thin. And I'm not cool enough yet to have like a cake decorating plate. You know, hopefully soon. Also, I'm not going to cut into this cake today because I am taking this to my family and I want to take them a whole cake. And so I'm just going to put a little bit more on. That's like a pretty thin layer. I really like icing, so I'm just going to put a little bit more icing on there. And just smooth it out. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Nice little layer of icing. And then we'll go ahead, and I guess we could have cut all of these at the same time. I didn't think about that. We'll go ahead and kind of flatten this top out a little bit too, even though I don't think we need to, but I'm going to do it anyway, just for the sake of practice. And then, you know, it's a snack. I can eat this and show you guys how good it tastes. So I would say that was a pretty good cut. It's a pretty good looking cake there. And we'll do this one cut side down. Though it really doesn't matter because we're doing 3 tiers. And we just want to make sure that it's kind of even on all sides. So that looks pretty good. And I'll do the same thing, put a healthy layer of icing on top, and then smooth it out. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm just checking to see how much icing we have on the layer. And it's a pretty moist cake, so it's not like we have to worry about kind of saving it with buttercream. And then we're gonna do the top off of this one. So just do the same thing, kind of laying the knife level on the cake, sawing back and forth, and then like letting the cake rest on the top, or the knife rest on the top of the cake so that we don't cut through the cake. So we're going to put this cut side down again. Just going to make sure that it's centered on there. That looks the same at all angles. Okay, I feel like that looks pretty good. So we're just going to put another kind of like a thin layer but on the whole cake. And then we're going to pop it in the fridge. We're making our crumb coat. And then after, we're going to pop it in the fridge so it can kind of like rest. And the icing can firm up a little bit, and then we'll put our final coat on the top. So, just going to push that to the edges and down the sides. Yeah, I would say I definitely need to work on my cake decorating skills. I feel like I'm good until like this point. And then I'm like, okay, my cake is like not cute. So I would definitely like to get better, and practice makes perfect. And I'm not having really any issues right now with crumbs. I feel like everything's looking pretty good. I do have some like flecks in this icing. I'm not 100% sure what that's about. I do not think I had flecks in the past. Yeah, so I'm not sure why there's flecks in it now. I'm just kind of working my way down the cake here. This cake is really nice and level. Okay, so I feel like this is pretty good at this point for the crumb coat. So we're just going to stick this in the fridge. And then we'll come back and put on our top layer of icing. It looks really good with the freckles, but that's not, it is not supposed to have freckles. And I was going to decorate it with some chocolate sprinkles because why not? Okay, I said it was ready for the fridge and I'm like still going around. Okay. Yeah, just wait a minute for that. Taste some cake scraps. It's delicious. Put a little bit of icing with the cake scraps maybe. Is this how you make cake pops? That combination is so good. Okay, so it has been 10 minutes. So we're going to do our final coat of icing on our beautiful cake. Alright, so it's like, why not, right? We're going to put the rest of the icing on here. Beautiful. And then we will make it work. Really follow the same formula. Just kind of do the top first, and then push the extra to the sides, and then we'll go down the sides. I feel like that looks pretty good. Looks like we could have more icing there. That part. I think that's pretty good. So I do really want to cut into it. We're not going to, we're going to save it. So what we are going to do though, what do you think? Could it be smoother? I feel like yes and no. Oh, if you're like a professional cake decorator, I would love to hear what you do differently. Okay. Well, that's a pretty solid looking chocolate cake. Looks good enough to eat, I think. We are going to add some sprinkles though, just for fun. I don't even have that many. I just want to do kind of like a cute little border across the top. I thought about doing chocolate chips and then I was like, sprinkles. We're just going to be so delicate. And then I think I'm going to try to put some along the bottom of the cake, even though I don't have that many. Worst case scenario, if it looks terrible, we can like scrape it off, right? You kind of have to push those ones in. Oh, I already don't know how I feel about this. This might be a terrible idea. It just like casually ruins the cake by adding too many sprinkles. Let's just pretend that someone requested chocolate sprinkles and then I was like, oh, I really don't want to do this, but it's what they want. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm going to pull this out now. Oh, goodness. Huh. I don't know how I feel. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. I should have quit while I was ahead when it comes to the sprinkles, but that's okay. We're here now. Alright, well, that is our chocolate cake. Here is our beautiful chocolate cake with our very unnecessary sprinkles. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you also attempted to make a chocolate cake, and I hope that it came out perfectly. Leave any questions in the comments, let me know what's up, whatever. Just thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys' support, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. Bye.